Yes, it's the Supernatural Substation. Hello, everybody. I'm Alyne Pustanio, and this is the Supernatural Substation for the 28th of July, 2017. For those people who want to know what day it is, there it is. uh, there, and we are broadcasting on the United Public Radio Network and iHeart affiliate now. So, you heard laughter in the back, and it must be my co-host, Bernadine LeBlanc.
It's me with the giggles.
Yeah. Yep. I just sit here and smile and look stupid. That's all. Nah, we just kind of jumped right in there. So anyway, this is the best thing right here. This is the monthly. Well, it's not better than having guests, right? But this is the monthly roundup. That means we've survived another month of Supernatural Substation. We got all. Zeke has stuff to say. Zeke is here. And we also have the pleasure of having an unpredictable Doberman in the background. So if you hear a bark or you hear something being chewed up and eaten, that's what it is. So anyway, how you doing, Bernadine?
I'm doing awesome.
Good. I'm glad. Oh, I corrected that problem too. Just to let everybody know who may be listening at some point, that we have solved the problem of the YouTube, etc. No, we have launched our YouTube channel. Just look for the Supernatural Substation. Go on by, subscribe, like us, because we want to keep we want to get up to the top in ratings and all that. Basically, because we want to take people's money. No, that's not true. No, but we want somebody to go over there and like us. So even if it's our relatives and extended family, that would be great. So, but anyway, yes, we are on YouTube now. So if you miss a show, and for the time being, if you miss any of the Terminus shows, they'll all be on the Supernatural Substation page. You still have some things to iron out for Terminus. So those of you who've listened in at the end of the month, we go through our guests and the topics that were brought up that we discussed. We had 3 this month. We had Miss Winter Balefire, correct?
Correct.
We had Pete Haviland, friend of mine, friend of everybody's. And we had last week Kayla Mathern, right? He was a psychic artist and a spiritualist, etc. Correct?
Correct.
See, I remembered. So, I think Winter and Kayla were similar in, there she goes, in that they both were psychics and spiritualists, or they had the spirit connection. Both were sensitive, although Winter is an author and Caleb is primarily a spiritualist or a spiritual advisor and an artist who paints. The impressions that she gets when giving someone a reading, and she also sometimes spontaneously paint spirit guides. And you were talking about, you have one of her paintings for you, right? We're talking about Kayla Mathern at this point. So
yes, it's a sketch art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a big poster that she sketched for me while she was doing a reading many years ago. And she'll be at the Rougarou Fest this year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Rougarou. We'll get to that. I guess, what is that, like the 22nd, 3rd? I don't even know when it is.
In October.
Okay. But back to Winter. She had a similar background, and I think I remember her saying that she at least in part began to discover all of this through the Ouija board. Am I right?
Yes, she's an occultist, magic occultist.
Yeah, she's an author and an occultist, and we talked about that because we have different styles, I guess, or approaches to it, and I was curious to know, I'm looking for clues to maybe tell you or tell someone what was going on, possibly magically, with a particular person or a particular situation. She is familiar with the practices that are being done, and I think she uses that as part of her reading. In other words, of reading the person or reading the situation. Am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
I believe so. I'm trying to remember that. I know you guys had a lot in common with folklore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is very much into folklore and legend, and that partly influences her writing as well. And so we were similar, but I don't believe that she uses the occult in the way that I would, and because our situations are different. I'm not anybody's reader. I'm not a psychic or an empath or any of that. So, I mean, I can get intuitive if I'm doing cards or some other, using some other sort of divination tool or something. But that's pretty much the limit of it, unless you go with a bad feeling. I get a bad feeling, which every Italian woman has. She can have that bad feeling, and something will happen. But I think she said that she incorporated all of this into her writing and her approach to the occult and her poetry. Yeah, because primarily, I know she's published. She's got a book of poetry published, and she participated or contributed to another couple of books. Again, her name is Winter Balefire, which is like the coolest name this month.
Yeah.
Balefire, and she's on Amazon. So if you want to go follow that link on Amazon, you can see what her work has been. It was very interesting, though. I mean, because. And she and Kayla are really similar. And this is not, I guess, unusual when you speak to most psychics or spiritual advisors or, even some practitioners. They have very similar starting points in a way. And each of them, each of them pretty much encounters the occult or the supernatural, and it's what they do as they take it on through life that might differ. But most people, and I don't know, I mean, it's just stating the obvious. Most are, at least when they're young, they're going to encounter a Ouija board, or they're going to do dowsing rods or pendulums or cards, which is, that's just 4 ways that a young, let's say not even a young adult, like a teenager or a preteen, will first encounter the occult, or the hidden knowledge of the occult. And depending on, their sensitivity. Dean, is that you?
I dropped something. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought you shot yourself because it was just so boring.
Well, it was a knife, but that's okay.
She's throwing knives. So that's what it is. Yeah, that's code word. But anyway, I mean, like you and I both did. We can all, everybody, I think, that has even a passing interest in like the paranormal, and I can say, yeah, I remember one night, we played that Ouija board, or I remember the first time I had my cards read, which is really common in South Louisiana and New Orleans, especially, because there's so, I mean, a visitor to New Orleans is going to find, at least 100 card readers, to choose from anywhere in the French Quarter to actually have cards done. And, it's a first step on a path, and it just depends on where you are destined to take it and where, you decide to take it. Neither she nor Kayla shared with us that they, took it like to black magic and sacrifices, which is good because I've got the corner on that, and they need to stop. No, but that's the thing too. Any one of either of them and me, or any one of us, from what we know and learn, at some point you have to make a decision, like what side are you going to work on. Unfortunately, in New Orleans, a lot of people say there is no gray magic, and I agree with that. There is no white magic. It's magic. It's just magic. But you get kind of like a blurred path. Like you don't necessarily have to be, drawing a circle and sacrificing an animal to go into a botanica and get, some candles and, whatever your intention is, good, bad, or indifferent, and so it's easy to be doing things that are manipulating the spiritual, the supernatural realm and the spirits that inhabit it, and not really realize the extent that you're going to. Like, I've told this story before. I had a former friend of mine was head over heels with, somebody who was not even living in the same geographic area. Like, he was in a different state, about 1,000 miles away. And he was married, and, evidently he was somebody from her past. And he was just giving her, a whole line of bull, because, every woman that decides to have an affair is like, oh, he's going to leave and come and be with me. Well, she wouldn't listen to me when I told her that's not going to happen, and she would get mad. And then she said she wanted to break them up. And so I told her, and this when I was, giving this kind of advice, it usually worked out pretty good. Of course, I can tell anybody to do X, Y, and Z, but when Z, Y, and X happens, it's not my fault. Knowing a thing and doing a thing, it's what they do, and they take anything that I tell them, or where I tell them to look in a book, and they go do it, And so we basically cut to the chase. She was doing all kind of work to break them up, and then, she was all upset when she was getting text pictures from this guy with blood on his head and tearing up his apartment and all this kind of stuff. And the wife was scared and ran out of the house, and she was crying and telling me, and I was like, well, what do you think? What do you want? You got what you wanted. You wanted discord between them. You wanted them to break up. You want him to have to come down here, and this is what you want.
Watch what you ask for.
Right, it's working, right? And she was like, I didn't want all this to happen, blah blah blah. And I'm like, and then she was going to stop it, and I was like, I don't, seriously, the home of all lost curses is with the sender, right? And I was like, if you stop what you're doing right now, that's all going to flow back. It's going to come back on you. I don't know whatever happened, because we stopped being friends. The woman was a walking ball of negativity.
Maybe she never watched Twilight Zone.
Yeah, she did, and she was, one of these sci-fi fans, and
it's like when you ask for something, you do get it, but it may not be how you want it.
Well, a lot of people are surprised, like if you come to New Orleans and you go down to F&F Botanica, and you talk to the guys down there, they provide to practitioners of voodoo, hoodoo, conjure, santeria, peo. They make no judgment on whatever you're buying, and they'll advise you about the product, and they'll even tell you, if you want to share your intention, they'll tell you the best way to use it. But anybody can walk in there. For instance, they have candles that are black, wax, and tar. Okay, and it says right on it, doom. Okay, the candle is supposed to be burnt upside down, right? So you can go in there and walk out with a bag of stuff that ends up with somebody dead. And people that don't stop to think about it, or that are skeptical about the outcome, they get all upset when they actually do something and it works, And I'm just like, well, what did you expect? It works. Magic is around for millions since primordial days, because it works. Okay. And then we get phone calls to you in the Louisiana State Paranormal Research Society. My house, it's something in my house, and I did this. And they usually don't want to tell you, like, if they're doing some kind of magic like that, like breaking people up, then they get all ashamed of it, And then if they stop doing it and blow those candles out, without knowing exactly how, to discharge it, or basically negate the charge, it's like I said, you will be investigating paranormal occurrences for years to come, because in a lot of ways, people are stupid when it comes to that. They think, it's some kind of circus thing, or it's like, oh, you go into the gypsy at the freak show or the sideshow. And it's not that. You started in this particular instance, she was working with the spirit of the planet Mars, right? That's what she was working with. And that's serious. That's strife and cursing and war and I'm like, so you're gonna bother this spirit, this planetary entity, and it's gonna happen. And then you're gonna say, no, I don't want that.
Sorry, my call was dropped, so I'm just now getting back.
Lord have mercy.
I don't know what happened.
You're there now on Skype. See, I'm telling you, Skype. Joe, are you here? That'd be good. I'm telling you, it's Skype. It's ridiculous.
They had 6 people in the room.
In Skype? Oh, we were connected
with
to
us.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, he's saying you good. So I don't know where it was that you lost me. But what I was just saying is,
people will call me. That's what.
Yeah, they'll call you, and then and I said, in the instance of the woman that I'm talking about, she was working with Mars, like the planetary spirit of Mars and all the lesser spirits and and the angel and all this other stuff. But she was going right to, kind of bypassing the angel because the work was strafing and cursing and breaking this couple up, and then going to run around. Well, right.
Have they not heard of karma?
The sky is falling, because I did, because why, and she sat there and she's like, oh, crying. I said, well, what do you want? That's what you asked for. You wanted, he may have hit the woman. I mean, this just, and in a way it was like, it's showing you that he's a violent person, so sometimes that happens and then they come to their senses, but by and large, you can ask any, any mambo or anybody that supplies to the magical trade here in New Orleans. People come in there, and in fact, the one thing that they want more than anything is love. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. I'm as old as I am. I'm like, I want money. I want health and money because, one is not good without the other. But, that comes when you're mature, quote unquote. Yeah, but they go in there, they either want somebody or they want to break up somebody to get with somebody. It's like, if you would like survey the practitioners, that would be at the top of the list. I want this person.
It's like written in small. If you read the fine print, right. Well, I want this one to break up with this one. Mm-hmm. Okay, they may break up with that one and go with somebody else instead of you. Exactly. You have to read the fine print and put exactly the wording.
It's hard. That's exactly right. From even the simplest magic, like hoodoo, or root work, throwing tricks, and I'm talking like Delta magic in New Orleans, real hoodoo working, to the complicated these ceremonial evocations and all. And let's take that in, so you're an occultist, and all of a sudden now you've moved on to where you want to summon demons into reality. And, when you get them there, you're supposed to have like memorized whatever it is that you want. And if there's even like people will try to guide people to word it absolutely correctly, because if you leave them an inch or even a hair's ability to screw you up, it will screw you up. They will do it. If you leave one stone unturned for them, they'll be like, okay, I'm doing just what you told me to do, because they can see the consequences, they being the spirits, and you can't see. All you can see is what you want and what you're asking for, and sometimes the whole thing goes wrong because it boggles my mind to call in, these major hypercosmic demons to, like make somebody love me. It's like, okay,
the
and they're
like, I'll love you.
yeah, forever in your grave.
Forever, yeah.
And
laugh selling your soul when you do these things.
Right, and laugh while the ghouls eat you.
They open the door, but then they don't read how to close it. If shit hits the fan.
That's it. You know, they don't want their, and that's where the difference comes in, where someone like Winter, who calls herself an occultist because she has the knowledge. And I've said this even tonight, you don't necessarily have to do anything. It's like the demonologist talk that we were having earlier in the month with Pete Haviland, our guest Pete, and how demonologists are a dime a dozen. Now, people are coming out of the woodwork, and that's your words because I listened to it when I was uploading it. They're coming out of the woodwork. So I'm a demonologist. I sent you a picture, right? And I'm going to actually post it on Facebook. I don't know who these people are. I was on some link on, you know how you open somebody's comment or whatever, and then you'll see their profile, and then you end up, you're like 5 profiles. You know, you don't even know how to get back to your own. Well, I came across that picture, and I'll just describe that picture. We've got. I
thought we knew them when you sent it to me, because I'm looking like, no, I don't know these people.
I don't. That's right. I don't either. You know, and I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to put it on the Facebook and say, hey, who are these people? Does anybody know? You know. But let me just describe the setup. You know, we've got 2 really, you know, one really tough looking guy who looks like he should be in Sturgis, and, you know, on his motorcycle, and he's kneeling, holding a rosary and a Bible. And then there's this woman standing over him wearing scrubs, right? Like she just came from work. And he said, here, hold this crucifix. This guy's going to take a picture. And then they photoshopped this beam of light coming in. And, I'm sorry, but you know, I haven't shared. The only reason I'm going to share it is because I would like somebody to tell me who those people are, you know. But it was laughable. I'm sorry, but that was really, you know, it's like, what do you say? Hey, I'm gonna hold this, and can you make a beam of light come down like God has opened up the heavens and
in
whatever?
This is Michael Langley with a daily update for Friday, July 20th.
In front of your apartment complex, and there's people in there looking out the window going, what are these fools doing? You know, what the hell? You know, it's guys holding, what is he driving away with, a book and a, you know, and a cross? I mean, it makes people get concerned, you know. If you have Hispanics, they're going to think that you're doing something, and so they're going to, you know, they're going to do some Santeria on your butt. Then you really need that beam of light. And then you really will, you know, and be like, oh my God. But anyway, I am going to share that. But on the subject of that and the occult, and that's demonologists, they try to stay away from that occult label. You know, they try to, I'm sorry, there's someone screaming in the background. Dean, help me here. Yeah, it's the madhouse again. So anyway, I warned her about the Doberman. I didn't think something else might happen. But anyway, no, the demonologists that, or the people that claim and call themselves demonologists, if you say occult to them, their hair, their hackles will get up. I'm not, you know, I have nothing to do with the occult. I'm a demonologist. Right, okay. And you never looked up the definition of a demonologist, you know? And the definition said it's one who studies demons. They study demons. They don't, it doesn't say like definition B, they go to your house and drive out demons. None of that falls under that. You know, now it's bastardizing the word, and it depends on the source. Because if you have someone, and I guess we invoke his name a lot, like Ralph Sarchi saying, yeah, you can call me a demonologist. He said that because he doesn't want to be called an exorcist, but he really is like a demon hunter or something. So, okay, so this guy's got a pedigree, you know, you call him that. You get some Joe Blow in the parking lot of a, I don't even know where that was, you know, sitting in the parking lot on his knees, and a beam of light drawn in. You know, I'd be a little skeptical about calling him about the demon that's in my house, you know, because of magic or seances or whatever the hell else, you know, that was done. And that's another thing that Winter was talking about, that they that she participated in seances too.
Right.
Which is like another way, right, for younger kids or whatever to get involved with it. Because even now they're using things like, you remember the Charlie thing like 2 years ago? Yeah, they're using that to get people to go and see movies, and they're, so you've got teens across the United States doing this thing and claiming stuff has happened. And as Dean and I both know, if you pay attention to it and you feed it and magic, you're putting all your focused attention on this thing that it begins as nothing, as bogus, and then it ends up killing somebody or hurting somebody or haunting somebody because you were really fooling with magic and foolishly, right?
And so, now with the Ouija board, they're calling out the Z word.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. And it was interesting when I was talking to a friend who a few years ago, she had heard the word. Now, again, I haven't talked to her in a long time, and we found each other on Facebook and all. But she heard the Z thing several years ago in the context of a kid of hers playing around with magic, and it's interesting that the name came up, and it's just unusual. And that's several years before before the guy, Daryl Wayne Evans, ever came out about it, ever came out with the word or ever came out with his story in the Ouija board. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? I mean, several years ago.
And the more popular it gets, the more they want it here.
And it's so malleable because it may start out as nothing, but if they're saying, oh, it's a terrible demon, it's going to grow into a terrible demon. And then the demons and the pollution spirits, the spirits that hang around whenever everybody's doing all this crap, they're going to make it work. What do you need for magic to work? You need the intervention of somebody or something that is going to help you manipulate the power or the force of whatever you want to call it to get what you want. So if you're sitting there, swinging a pencil and calling Charlie Charlie because of the movie The Gallows, it's going to say, you can call me Charlie, you can call me. Do you remember in the 70s I think it was on Saturday Night Live or something, the guy used to say, you can call me Ray and you can call me Jay.
Yeah.
It's just like that. There are some things that they were never given names. Discarnate things or things that never were in a human body. And they'll take any name that you give them because that in fact gives them control over you, right? Because you always say, don't, you want to try to get the name out of the demon because it gives you control over them. That's true. But in the reverse, it can happen to you and you can be on the receiving end of that. And, so it's just, I don't know. I was thinking, because I was putting all that stuff on the YouTube, and I'm thinking, boy, I'm a curmudgeon.
Well, that's why we speak about the dangers, because a lot of pubescent teens will, that are bored, mom, dad's not there, they're going to go get a Ouija board or make a Ouija board. You can make your own and just be bored and start trying to call in spirits. But what they're not understanding, because they're so young, is they may keep this and it may ruin their lives.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you and I are the people that meet people at that part in their life, that point in their life where it's gone wrong or it's off the rails, because
even if their intentions are good, you just never know.
Well, there is no good or innocent, with it. It's
where kids don't know. They just think it's a fun game, Let me try because I've seen it on TV.
Right. And I mean, this is kind of like filed under Bloody Mary and all that sort of stuff,
Which I used to play.
Yeah. And from experience, people look at you when you say that stuff works, right? Well, when you think about it, the fact that you can go to sleep at night and wake up the next day, that's kind of magical too, right? The sun going down and coming up, it's kind of magical. And in a simple world, or a more, a less advanced time, that was magic. People, I mean, there were people who were like scared to death when the moon came up and throw rocks at it and all, didn't know what it was. That, believe me, I admit that's going far back, but it's all magic. This whole thing holding together that we're in, called, the universe. It's magic. It's explained through science, but it really is magic. So why would they think, if they stood in front of a mirror and said Bloody Mary, 3 times, several times, trying to do it, trying to get it, that something won't eventually happen? I've never understood that mindset. Oh, I need you to help me. I guess I am sympathetic, but I also know, the stupidity that goes into something like that. So, but in the case of both Winter and Kayla, they know that too. They're not ignorant in their practice, or ignorant of the knowledge that, you need of it to understand what you're dealing with, or even, in the most simple sense, how to write about it. What to write and how to write about it, which is important if you're writing any kind of a story or a book that involves complicated magic. But of course, why even bother when you can read Harry Potter? Just read Harry Potter. And seriously, whenever I look at those movies, I'm like, there's a bunch of kids out there going, or not even kids, maybe now they're young adults, thinking that they're going to do a petrification spell, or, whatever it's called, expecto patronum and all this other stuff. They're going to do that, and that's what it is.
I think I read somewhere that they're actually, I think it was England or somewhere, that they're actually going to open up a school like that.
It's in France. And
it's in France? Okay.
Yeah. And they won't take anybody under 16. But when I looked into it, I thought it was a true mystery school. Mystery schools are legendary and infamous, and usually you don't know, no one knows where they are. But there were places where you would go in a cave, and you go so far back, and there would be, this forum or this seating, and you'd be there with other students, and you would learn direct from the demon or the spirit of the cave, or other higher grade elders and all. And those schools did exist. They may not have been in caves, but they were in underground, like catacombs and stuff like that, because they were basically sharing magic and things that they could lose their lives for, spells and stuff like that, especially if the church was to find out, it'd set the whole thing on fire. Like yeah. Monty Python used to say, no one expects a Spanish Inquisition. So to avert that, they would go underground, literally. And, so I thought, cool, in a way. Well, I was kind of like, but I was like, are they really going to be teaching like that magic? But what it turned out to be is they're going to be teaching the magic of Harry Potter, like what comes up in the books, to these students. And so it's all like play acting, right? You get to go to a castle, and you're in France, and you get to, basically the wand and the, whatever. And you're like, it's all like, I guess it's the closest thing to like live action role playing, that you can get. But they're spending money to send kids here. It's like the ultimate Universal Park, you can go in a castle in France, and that
summer
too.
Camp.
Mm-hmm. When they first came out with Harry Potter, and I think I've said this before, it may have been when we were speaking in Winter. It's they were running around screaming about the witchcraft, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then I went to see the first one. I was like, okay. And then by the second one, I was like, somebody either had a book or knows what they're talking about. Then in the succeeding ones, it's like, seriously, J.K. Rowling, or the people that write for her, know what they're talking about, because it began to get darker and darker. And to an occultist, to someone who studies the occult, recognizable as different practices or different, functions or whatever. Whatever you're going to do, the steps of any spell, or it was just like, okay, those people were right, because at some point she got very informed about real magic. So Then you've got, 7-year-old kids running around with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or, or whatever. So, and thinking they can do magic. So what if, like when we went there, okay, I took my daughter and my nephew, or they took me, and we went to Harry Potter World, and you can go in there in the wand shop and buy a wand. Okay, and you can buy Harry's one, or Hermione's, or Ron's. You can buy Bellatrix Lestrange, which is the one that I have, the bad woman. And so you can buy these, and they're made out of resin. They're not wood, and they're replicas of what they used in the movie. But, I was looking at them, and I'm like, there's nothing that would stop somebody from actually making this into a wand that works. Period. It's there. So I know there's like people who know the occult and know magic, who can go in there, buy a wand, and make it into a magic wand, make it into their personal wand, and it would work. So
they actually have that on YouTube.
Yeah, how you can make a wand,
make your own wand that works.
Mm-hmm.
With crystals and gems, and
they have everything
wood, and tell you how to. Well, actually, they say that the tree branch finds you instead of you finding it.
Right.
And that's the one you use, and they have the whole ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of the weapons of the witch, or the male witch too. Well, they call them warlocks, but they're really just witch, or the sorcerer. Let's say it's one of the weapons. It's one of the magical tools. The cup, the wand, the sword, the pentacle, or pentagram, depending. So all of that is those are the tools. That anybody who knows their basic, old style witchcraft is familiar with all of that. And some things will come to you, right? But you will gravitate to other things and then consecrate them for your use. Just like is, Catholic, where they consecrate the wine, the water and the wine and everything else. So, so there are people who conceivably, as younger kids, went about, this Harry Potter stuff seriously, and then go on YouTube and are running around, trying to make their wine. It's funny because it all comes back like to the same point,
Mm-hmm.
Magic works. Occult studies, if you choose to take the path of the practitioner, they work. It works. Magic and the occult are real things. So playing around with these little gateways, like, Bloody Mary seances. I don't know. I knew someone who lost a family member. I think too. I'll tell you later. And the very first thing that they wanted to do after that person died was to go to a seance, go to table tipping, right, to get in touch with who had just died, and I was very sad to hear that.
They never heard of rest in peace.
Evidently not.
Right after you die, it's too soon.
They should know better, right? It's too soon anytime, really. I mean, it's to go bothering the dead. But the point is that there's probably a 50-50 chance that whatever's coming through that, that seance or the table or whatever it is that you're using is not your dead relative, right? It could be something. It could be something from the other people, but that's just for that person. I guess that's the way the grief led them. Excuse me. And I would say, like you just said, it does disturb the dead. It's kind of a form of necromancy because you can't let go of them here. Grieving and thinking and wanting to connect with them, there are things, and there are even people who will, take advantage of that. And they'll promise you all kinds of things, like, they're gonna dog is barking outside. just so everybody doesn't think it's the werewolf. But there are things waiting for humans to do stupid stuff, really stupid stuff. And that's an unfortunate situation. I know if you lost someone, you want to talk to them again and all that, but it becomes a problem for you. And I even talk about this in the book. When grief is just going on and on, someone will have to get help to you, or you need to reach out for help, because that just draws and it keeps the spirit, connected, going back and forth with you and other things. So there's a lot of cautionary tales in folklore about over grieving for a lost loved one.
Yeah, and it's hard, I guess. It would be like I've lost a loved one, and it was so tempting to me to just try to do EVP,
right.
Just to hear the voice again, and I have to talk myself out of that. I'm like, no, because I'm not going to hold the spirit here.
Yep. And then, there's no way of really knowing if that's the person you want to talk to.
Right. And you're grieving so much that the energy that you're putting into it can open something up.
Well, like we always
want.
Right. Like we always talk about, that is your grief and your, sorrow is food to something, right? It's an energy that a certain type of spirit feeds off of, like gains strength from.
It manifests through the energy.
I mean, there's an old, the best example, there's two really good cautionary tales. One of them is, I don't know if you ever read the story, The Monkey's Paw.
No.
I read it in high school, but I've read it recently too. Starts out, it's in England. There's a mother, father, and a son who works at a factory down the road. And the father knew this guy who had like traveled the world in the service of the king or whatever. And he came over and he brought a curio, and it was a monkey's paw, and it was desiccated. It had been cut off. It was all dry. And he basically, said, this, there's something about this, it causes grief or whatever. And then the man or the son was like really incredulous about that. And, he said, well, they offered to buy it from him or keep it for him or something like that. Okay. They got possession of it. And the first thing that they wished for, since they had love, they wished for money, I think. Yeah. Money. Well, wait, they did one. Here I am. They did. There was one that was harmless. I think the son asked for something, and then that having been fulfilled, the next one was the parents asked for money. The son went off to work, and he was killed at the factory. And the factory foreman came over and told him, he had this amount of money. It was the exact amount of money that they asked for. So there's the first cautionary tale, right? And then there was one wish left on the paw. And the grief was so intense that the mother one night wished her son back. That was it. It was the second one. I know now. Anybody who knows me can see my face. They wished for, the very first thing they wished for was, what do you call it? The money. That's it. And that's why it's so significant. They wished for the money. That happened with the son. She wished her son back, and he showed up at her door, and the dad took the paw while all of this is going on, before his wife could open the door, because the boy had been dead for, like, I guess several weeks or several days. And he wished his son dead again. And that was the third wish. So you get what you asked for.
Right.
The moral of that, and then the other one is the demon lover, who is, it's told all kind of different ways, but it's basically a woman loses her loved one in war. She's either betrothed to him, or they were going to be married or whatever, loses him in war and grieves so much that he comes back, and she realizes it's not him when he takes her up on his horse and they ride off and they jump over the cemetery fence and they jump into this gaping hole in the ground, right? So that's why, I mean, people are counseled. These are old tales to get a lesson into people's minds who were not, like educated or whatever. They're teaching them the consequences of that action. And that's true. I mean, it's colorful, but it happens. If you can't let them go, they're going to keep coming back, or they're even going to stick there. And then it's sad because you've maybe you wish they're there and you don't know they're there, and they're tied to that place after you and your family are dead. And they become like, just a ghost to everyone else. So occultism has consequences. It isn't just something to plow for, ideas to write books about. It's good, but it is. And then the stunning thing of always being surprised when it works, But Kayla goes a little step further, I guess, and she sees the spirits around you. I mean, she did a reading with you. So what did she actually do? Did she start drawing right away when she sat down? Did she sense something right away?
Well, she talked to me for a little while, and it's been years ago, so I'll try to remember. She was in a room alone, and it wasn't like set up at a table like we do at convention. She was in her own little area, her own room closed off. So she talked to me for a little while, and I didn't tell her too much because, whenever you go to someone like that, you don't want to give them too much information. So she started sketching as I'm talking to her, and I can't remember if she did tarot cards or not. I can't remember, but I know while she was sketching, she was explaining to me that I had several spirit guides, and she was telling me about each one, and if I noticed certain things in my life that would relate to each one of them. And then she showed me the it's like a poster, so she showed me after, and I asked her questions about, what is this, because it's kind of like, well, it's psychic art, but it's not like there's a picture of this spirit guide, from head to toe, and then there's one of this from head to toe. It's a bunch of little things all over in one reading, one sketch art, and she explains what symbol goes with which one and what it means in your life. And then some could be from a past life that they're still hanging around. Right. The spirit guide from a past life, but there was more than one, which, was interesting to me because I always thought we just had one.
Oh, like the guardian angel thing.
Right.
But now that you, that you are doing, so much paranormal investigation, you understand why there's a lot of people, or there can be a lot around you at any given time, right?
Right.
Because everybody thinks, oh yeah, it's just your guardian angel, and they call it that, and it's not just them. It could be several spirits you don't even know that are watching over you, Because you remember when we were in Florida at the Pensacola Paracon, and the sort of irresponsible statement of someone who said the spirits are good, they're there for you, those spirits would never hurt you. After I basically said, spirits are what led my mother in part to the grave, and he's like, I would never have that, I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, you have to die at some point, and then you're going to see, what's around you. Hey, you could go and do all this and nothing ever happens. And, the spirits that you see or that you feel are there or whatever, that's like, that could be like just the front line, and they could be imitating or whatever, but they could be who they are. And maybe you're not listening to their message, that behind them, there's a line of bad spirits who are just, influencing your daily life. And we're trying to warn you about it. I mean, that's to make a statement and say there's no bad spirits, right? It is just ignorant, in my opinion.
That'd
It's
be
just
like saying there's no bad people.
Right, exactly. Everybody's good, everybody's sweet, everybody's, light and love and all this other bullshit. Well, my mom fell for all that, and it was in part contributed to her death and put her in the mental situation that she was. Because if when you tell people that, oh, all the spirits are good, they're going to guide you and all, you go home and either you can't get in touch with it, or you're having bad experiences with the spirits that are all nice, then you're going to think it's you, and you're going to do other stuff, in other words. And I can just see a person like my mother doing that, thinking, well, I'm doing it all wrong, so I have to do this and then do another thing and then do another thing, and demons from hell, suddenly are in our house. It's really ignorant and irresponsible to give anyone the impression that everything out there is good. I mean, everything out, like
they
you
have
just
a
said,
lot of followers instead of leaders, and all it takes is that one leader to lead you the wrong way if you're gullible that way.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's right. Sometimes you're put in like a particular place to hear a certain message, and if something doesn't want you to hear that message, I'm just theorizing, it's going to do whatever is necessary to distract you from actually hearing the message. So there's no way somebody can run around saying everybody, it's all good, because there are billions of people, and there are innumerable spirits that for each of those people. And to say something so, oh, it's harmless, no. Well, why are you here then?
Yeah.
How did you get into this if it's harmless? You actually, obviously, you heard about it. You had to hear the bad things. So
I would guess it would be something like the cult leaders. They promise all good on the other side if they do what they want, what they ask, and then they end up mass suicides because they believe this one person.
Yeah.
That's leading them to doom.
Right. That's true.
But they think the intention, of this person is good.
And I mean, excuse me, but you and me, I'm not going to put my well-being and my afterlife in the hands of some, moron who's telling me what, he's telling me, but he can't prove anything. So, but anyway, the man in the room is telling us it's time for a break. So when we come back, we are doing our July Paranormal Roundup, and we're going to talk about our conversations with Pete Haviland and some other stuff, whatever comes up out of it. So stay with us. You're listening to the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network, and we will be back shortly.
You're back.
Hey everybody, we're back with the Supernatural Substation. I'm Alyne Pustanio, and I'm here with my co-host, as usual, Bernadine LeBlanc. But
what's up?
I'm gonna use a little symbol. And we're doing our July Paranormal Roundup, which has taken us in a real roundabout. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. And so we're basically going through the topics that our guests talked about this month. And we have basically finished with Kayla and Winter Balefire. And so Pete came on. Pete Haviland is he's the founder of Lone Star Spirits Paranormal. He's in Texas. He has another team that he works with, and he also is an accredited certified hypnotist, a clinical hypnotist. So it was an interesting twist to talk with him. The first thing basically we were talking about was the amount, I guess, of fraud and the people calling themselves demonologists. And, we've kind of talked about that, but they're a dime a dozen these days, and he doesn't agree with it any more than we do. And he doesn't call himself a demonologist, and I can't call myself a hypnotist because I'm not, so it's the same thing. There's no piece of paper, but there is for a hypnotist. So, yeah. But we were talking about that with him, and we were also talking about how to use, or if he has used his skills as a hypnotist for any clients. And I think he did, right? I think he's used it to contact, I guess, to see if, he can get to the spirit that may be attached. I think that's basically how that went. Because I know we were talking about Dr. Wickland in the 1920s and his book 30 Years Among the Dead, and how many people in insane asylums in his day he believed were attached and obsessed by spirit entities, which was confirmed, I guess, when he would hypnotize the patient, and then his wife would go into trance and basically get in touch with the spirit that is attached to the individual. And actually Dr. Wickland got a few people out of the asylum, which is good. Yeah. Because an asylum in 1924, it's not the place to be.
No, lobotomies
and hosing you, and they put you in cages and
ice baths,
terrible,
boiling water.
Yep, not a place to be. Yeah. Because especially if you're not crazy, but even if you know what's being done to you, it's like you can't get out. So
did you send me pictures one time of people in asylums in the 1800s or earlier? Yeah. That was horrible.
Well, I think there's a couple of stories that I read, and it was like, the pictures, and one was all women from an asylum, and a couple of them, and they were in there for things like hysteria, right? And hysteria, the definition of it in the 19th century was basically a woman's, I guess I'll, just flat out say it, a woman is finding, no relief in her relationship with her husband, and so she's hysterical, which is also the root word for hysterectomy. But in this case, they would stimulate her sexually, and the doctor would do it. And then, the more they did that, apparently the better she was. I don't know, made her feel all better, but apparently a few of them were put back into the asylum. So, I mean, that's disturbing.
Well, menopause, they must have thought they were witches.
Yeah.
Because menopause.
That's when they got locked in the room at home, right? That's when they went to the disappointments room or whatever it is at home. But then there was a couple of other articles of men and women and boys. It's just, when people think about hell, they kind of think all these kind of thoughts. It's like, an asylum in London, an insane asylum in London in the 1800s has to be high on the list of hell-like or like hell, you know,
Yeah.
because the things that went on, it's just terrible. I mean, they are dramatized in movies, wherever, you know, the story calls for it, but whatever they dramatized was 10 times worse than that. A good indication was, we were talking about Penny Dreadful, I think last week, and or the week before, and Vanessa, Eva Green, in the second season, the first and second season, she goes into the asylum, and it's terrible. The things that and all of those things were true. Those were all actual treatments, like the ice bath, the, you know, spraying them with the water treatments, kind of like waterboarding, straight jackets, food deprivation, all that other stuff. And it kind of was tame from some of the pictures that you see of it. So that, in the 18th and 19th centuries, that was a particular kind of hell that you wanted to avoid. You know, they had one in, they had two. They had a men's asylum, was actually called Bethlehem's Hospital, but the short word for it was Bedlam. And so you get Bedlam attached to an insane asylum. And the women's was Maudlin Asylum. Boy, I'm spot on tonight, right? It was Magdalene. That's where they got maudlin from, because maudlin is, like, you know, a term that goes with melancholy. But anyway, these were the two really notorious places, and they served a lot of times as workhouses for debtors and the poor women, you know, who had nowhere to go. They'd end up in the asylums. So now we're smart, like Bernadine and I were like, we're not going to stop moving long enough for them to put us in anything like that.
No.
You know, cray is on the outside. Yeah, people pretty much know. I'm at this point where I'm telling people I'm crazy. Okay.
I have papers.
Everybody, right? Yeah. I have papers. I can bludgeon you, you know. Now. Yeah, let's get in a car and go take care of that guy that was hauling the shark around. Have you seen that? Did you see that?
I untagged you. Untagged me. I cannot handle seeing animals abused, even a fish. Nothing.
Well,
people, it's a different story. Maybe that's my craziness. I could watch rotten.com with dead people and decapitation, all that, but when it comes to an animal, I cannot watch it. I can't do it.
Well, because people, children, and elderly people, children and animals have no control over what's happening to them. Very little in the case of, you know, so that's why I'm a zero tolerance of that kind of abuse. Animals and children of any age and elders, it just sends me like over the edge. Well, apparently these clowns, more is coming out about them. This is not the first time that they've done this with the shark, but they towed that thing until it got shredded up by the waves. And, you know, so I think the perfect fitting penalty or punishment for that is to drag that moron or those three morons behind a bunch of boats until they're dead. You know, that's what I think. There's another one that came up where they were pouring beer into the gills of a hammerhead shark. They were pouring alcohol on the back of a sea turtle. They had a dog that was limp that they said was floating, quote unquote, in the water, and they pulled it out of the water. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, because karma is great, the mother of the worst offender is like a county advisor in whatever county in Florida this is, and the dad's like some bigwig. So now they put all the information on Facebook, and if you haven't seen it, any of you guys, you can find it on Facebook, and you can call them too. I wish I lived there. I would be going inside, like, and camping or waiting in the parking lot to tell, you know.
Is that kids, teenagers?
Right. No, they seem to be college age, but they're entitlement brats. They're, you know, they think they can get away with anything.
I think people just, when they get bored, they just like, what is the saying? Idle hands leave
Devil's
something.
workshop. Yeah, devil's workshop.
I mean, why do so many bad things when there's so much good you could be doing?
Because they're entitlement brats. They're spoiled. They've gotten out of everything that they've ever done, and
but the karma's going to get them in the
they
long
don't
run.
care. They don't think about that. They don't think about that it's a life they're taking when they're doing something. And you know what? You got to wonder about how they treat their peers and how they are with women. You know, these are not one. At least one of them's not. So you know that everybody's got a girlfriend.
You're going to pick on anything defenseless, whether it be an animal, an elderly, a baby, anything defenseless, karma will get you in the long run bad.
Yeah, very bad. Because people think about, well, I mean, we've got human beings, okay, and we know that there's a God, and we know that, you know, the harm that we do is going to be paid back to us. But in the case of animals, someone asked me this one time, and the animals, we think about, you know, we from slaughtering them to ones that are killed horribly like this. It's like, where does the life force of the spirit go? And there's an oversoul. In other words, they believe, or they postulate in the occult, right? These traditions, that there is like a soul, an animal soul. So all the animal kingdom and whatever this soul is, this supernal for the animal kingdom, absorbs them back into it. Unlike us, who are like, you know, we die, our spirits we retain our spirits and go into the afterlife. The animals are brought back in. So, you know, and I was thinking that because it really infuriated me. And I'm like, God does not sleep. You know, God does not sleep. And at some point, one of these bastards are going to be saying, I don't know, why this is happening to me. And I hope there's somebody there to say, you remember that shark? You remember the pelican? You remember the dog? You remember the other shark?
That's why I can't watch any. I don't even go scroll through the news feed. I can't, because when I see stuff like that, I can't.
It infuriates me.
I get so mad. If I would see someone in their own yard abusing an animal, I would go in their yard and attack them. And that's how mad I get. That's right. I don't care about I won't care about the consequences at the time.
I know.
Because that's how upset I get. I can't even see a stray animal on the side of the road.
I know
because it's going to bug me so bad. So I have to stop and pick it up.
Right. And that's how you do what you do when you bring them home.
If I get home, I'm going to worry about them. And I won't stop worrying about them until I go back and get them. So
I have the same thing. It's like, why didn't I do that? Or, you know, I could have. I mean, when you just can't take another pet or something, it's like, what are you going to do? But you know, you can alleviate their suffering, or you know, bring them to a shelter.
I would rather see an animal put down than abused.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was somebody who posted on that post about
neglected.
I was thinking that today. It was like hot as hell over by you too, right? It's like 100 degrees over here, right? And I'm thinking, and you know, the dogs in the yard, I change their water out frequently. It's not just once a day. But if it sits in the sun in a metal bowl, it's hot. Okay. And I was just thinking that I'm like, how many animals through no fault of their own, you know, are exposed to the sun and have nothing to drink and no shelter to go in. And it's the same thing when it freezes. But speaking from, as you were just speaking, the occult perspective, let me assure you, it will be paid back to you. Whatever you put out on the water of the great universe, it comes back to you. Sometimes 3 times over, sometimes 10 times over, you know. So
I think it's different for people that don't know better, like someone who's like mentally incapable of understanding how to take care of an animal. I think that would be a different, you know, I don't know. It's just different to me because they don't know better. But they shouldn't have an animal if they don't know better. But you know, you just never know. But people that intend to do harm, even to elderly, I mean, these people live that long in their life. For them to go and just kill them in their own home, in their own bed, You know,
in a
it's
nursing
just,
home.
yeah.
There was a terrible video. It was a local channel, WWL, who showed some of it, of hidden camera, about the way these some of these, I guess, nurses' aides and whatever are treat old people, the elderly people. And that's exactly how I feel. These are your elders. I don't care if he's the grumpiest man on earth. I don't care if he can't hear and you got to tell him 18 times. He lived to be 80 or whatever he is. He's lived his life and he deserved. And in a lot of these cases that they were looking to, it was veterans. It was at VA facilities. And they just throwing them around in the bed. And I remember how frail my dad was at 88. I'd kill somebody.
And those who
I would
turn
go
a
to
blind
jail.
eye, that
Yeah,
know
they're
about it,
just as
turn a
guilty.
blind eye, they are
That's
just
right.
as guilty. Because
That's
if I
right.
walk past somebody's room and seen them
Mm.
being abused, trust me when I tell you, it's a miracle I'm not in jail. See, that's why I stay
Believe me,
home.
folks, it's a
That's
miracle.
why I
Right.
stay home.
That's
Because
why.
I'm not afraid of confrontation.
I'd be right there with you, though.
To the biggest person, I wouldn't care.
Yep.
You know, if I feel someone's in harm's way that's defenseless, trust me when I tell you, I'm coming for you.
That's exactly right. And I know Bernadine, and she will do it.
And I
And
will do it.
I'll be happy to be there with you filming it for Facebook. Yes, let's go live. Let's go live on this, you moron. Let me shove this bat down your mouth. It's just why. There's enough savagery in the world. Why?
Right.
And if you think, I mean, you can atone for things. You can. If you are really regretful and remorseful and you want, to be forgiven for it, you can be, because God is a forgiving God. But if you're just going to blow off life and think, that everything here is for you to kill, use, abuse, and whatever, you're just basically designing your afterlife. You're basically setting the parameters for everything that can happen to you when you close your eyes and wake up on the other side.
And I think they're going to be put back on this earth and have to deal with what they put out.
Well, either that or they're so evil, and this is where again occult tradition comes in, that they're cycled out of being basically reincarnated, or cycled even out and segregated from the other spirits. If you have a really evil person who is unrepentant, who has done this in, multiple chances at life, because I think everybody has multiple chances at life because of the resurrection. Um, he didn't get on the cross and die just for one death, one measly little death. He wants to defeat eternal death and eternal separation from God. Now, people that don't believe in it are like, but they are not going to tell me that there isn't like just that little inkling as they get over that what is coming, and you didn't believe in God your whole life, you have a big surprise coming for you. And if you don't believe in God and you're a person that does the kind of crap that we're talking about, you have an even bigger surprise, because that's when God will step aside and something else will step up. Everything we do is punished. Everything we do that's wrong, everything we do that's good is rewarded, but it is remunerated with the appropriate, let's just say, agent. So people wonder, they often ask, why does God let demons exist? Why does he let devils exist? Because they have a purpose. And if you don't know what that purpose is right now, you better do everything you can to not find out in the afterlife. They have a reason. He allows it because they have a purpose. So, little shark boys over there in Florida, you're blackening your soul. It's like the Dorian Gray. You remember the story of Dorian Gray? Where the picture, where he was, you remember it in Penny Dreadful, the young guy who stayed perpetually young, immortal, and his picture.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There's movies after movies made about
and
it.
He got pulled out of his picture.
Well, I wish Penny Dreadful, when we bring it up.
No, I'm thinking something different.
No, you remember who was Dorian and Penny Dreadful, the one time we got to see his picture. And they didn't even take the full story out. But there are other movies where, this guy is so young and attractive and at a perfect point in life where he says he wishes that the portrait would age instead of him and it would absorb everything that he did. And it just so happened in the book that there's a statue of the goddess Bast, the cat goddess of Egypt. So evidently he gets his wish, right? Which obviously And he goes on to live a debauched life, and even in the end, though, he gets killed, and he becomes what he really is, which is what's the image in the picture. So, if any of you guys think, or anybody thinks, that you don't have to answer for it, for whatever it is, from stealing a penny or doing harm to killing an elderly person, believe me, that's when I smile and I'm like, yeah, we might do this to you on earth, but I hope we're there to see when that demon eats your ass out, like, forever, eternity, But anyway, that was off the subject, but hey, we can talk about anything we want. It's our show. I'd like to go to, it's like, I wanted to say road trip, we'd go over there and camp in the parking lot of these, these people's business and say, what is wrong with you? What have you raised? These monsters. You're lucky that we caught him now, because they might kill a woman or a man or kill somebody else. But anyway,
that's the ones that need the microchip
and the asylum. They need a little trip into reality, criminally insane. Yeah, this way, right this way, right behind the glass. I'd turn a hose on their stupid ass. You're right though about the images, because I think pictures have come up about what happened. How the shark looked after they were done with it. So and those who know about the paranormal and about the supernatural and the occult can say with confidence that, boy, you're screwed. You're screwed. Hitler might get into heaven before you do. Okay. I mean, it's just, you don't know, because actually people talk about Hitler, and I'm not defending Hitler at all, but I'm saying he never killed anybody. Everybody says, oh, he's responsible, but he never stabbed anybody, never poisoned anybody, never personally hung anybody, never shot or whatever anybody. He was a coward. So he never was near any battle when he served in the First World War, and he certainly wasn't near it when he was given orders. So, but if you stop to think about it, he's one of the most reviled men in history, but he never personally committed a crime like that. I mean, murder. We know he might have done other stuff, but he never killed anybody. So he might stand there in front of God and next to the shark killers, and Hitler gets in. What I mean? And you guys, the other way, you go down there. Welcome to hell. Here's your accordion. Start shoveling. You can have water, but you have to share it with a toddler eating a hot dog.
Call your mom and dad.
Yeah. Now call them. Well, yeah, they're in purgatory for producing you. Anyway, we'll be there having our black vodka martinis with Aleister Crowley and Hitler and saying, Anyway, so Pete Haviland waded into this crazy morass a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about hypnosis and its uses in basically the paranormal research. But the other thing is, and we all feel it would be because what we were talking about was Pete is like this paranormal thing has plateaued. It's hit a plateau, and it's like, where does it go next? And one thing that I said, that I brought up was, it's going to stay like this, with a bunch of people crawling over each other to be on TV and do this and all this other stuff.
It's out of control.
It is out of control. And the problem is, the thing that I suggest would get it in control is if they being all the paranormal investigators, et cetera, everybody that claims to be, would present their evidence to a neutral sort of governing body that could say, yeah, because it's important. If they actually capture, if investigators like you, and you have evidence that is indisputable in your opinion, and and I've seen it. We have evidence. I was involved. That is indisputable. But we can tell so and so's team until we're blue in the face. Yeah, but we have blah 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 blah, and we have. Well, I mean, shouldn't it be the big we? Shouldn't we be, like gleaning out the actual hits the real encounters and stuff, and curating those with something. And so
I'd like to be part of that governing body.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a new show.
Yeah. We're gonna fund it ourselves at some point. Yeah, that's really it. I'm gonna start doing I'm gonna take a GoPro, and you and I are gonna like do stuff like that. Like go down and show up at the dock for people who kill sharks and stuff. I don't know what they'll call us. They'll call us two crazy ladies. That's what it's gonna be. No, but seriously, there are people that are collectively admired. Okay, there are people that are admired and they don't deserve it, and whereof I speak. But there are people that are admired. Like take for instance John Zaffis. By and large, nobody really has any criticism of him. He's the real deal. He's done his work. He's put in his time, and I would have no problem with him sitting on a governing board like the American Society of Psychical Research, which still exists, as does the British one.
Right.
So there is somebody that we could submit all this to, but I would have no problem with somebody like a John Zaffis looking at evidence and listening to evidence and saying, further research, or this is it 100%. Until that happens and people are willing to like let go of their stuff and to take the criticism and take the no verdict, basically, but the 10 people don't agree with you. It's until that, in other words, be what they want to make it. They say they want to make it a valid scientific approach to validating the supernatural, right?
Right.
But they don't if they won't surrender their evidence to anybody but a production team for a TV program. If that's what they're waiting for, that's all they're going to do. That A may never happen, B may never happen, and C, you could be, you're shortchanging yourself. You're doing work for nothing if that's your goal. To be on TV, they're a dime a dozen too. I was looking today, the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. God.
The what?
The guys from Ghost Asylum, and they're.
I thought you said the Tennessee Rape Chasers. I'm like, what?
Wraith. Okay. Like Wraith. Tennessee Wraith Chasers. So it's TWC. Okay. So they're on Destination America, and I think they started on Travel Channel. I'm not sure. Anyway, they're the ones that go into the asylums and they build all these, they look around and their shtick was they build some kind of gizmo to trap or lure or whatever. Okay. A box, a Tesla coil or whatever, and it's pretty much, you could describe this and then just put the show name over it. Oh, you're talking about Ghost Adventures. Oh, you're talking about Ghost Asylum. Oh, you're talking about Ghost Stalkers. Oh, that's an old, ghost.
We know all their techniques. Yeah.
Right. And everybody can replicate them, but nobody can prove anything. That's the point, So these idiots, I'm sorry. That was pretty, I know I can say that it's not 100% them, because you and I both know how these production companies are and how these, these outliers, these people who are putting together the show, they tell you to push this and do that.
They do for ratings.
Right. They do it for ratings, and the guys or the person or the women or whoever it is do it because they want a paycheck. And they know they've got the bull, or they've got the bull by the balls, let's say, and they can get money out of this thing. Right. So they've done their little asylum thing, and I guess maybe they ran out of asylums, and they have a new show coming out called Haunted Towns. Right. Okay, so they're going to Gettysburg, and they're going, to all these. Some of them they visited before and stuff. It's like nothing static can grow if you just stay in one position and never do anything. You have hit a plateau, and basically, you're spinning your wheels, and then you have the exploiters, trying to make money off of all this crap. And, the other exploiters, like the producers, going, to the next level or down, like, like naked ghost hunting, right? alone.
Yep.
You know?
Minute emails for stuff. Yeah. Like
And
naked? No.
yeah, no, not in this life, not today.
Mm-mm.
No fire today. No, that's not going to happen. No, I'm not going to watch it. I didn't watch the other show that came out that was called Naked and Afraid. You know,
I never watched that either. I'm
what's it
like,
going to be called?
God,
Naked and Scared, Naked and Stupid. How's I'd
if
watch
I
that.
was naked, they would be afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, not my 30, I'm not my 38-year-old self, but eh, I guess in a way, we've traded something. We have a lot of knowledge and I
Mhm.
know I'm not going to get in there. I'm not going to get on there and do anything for just to
I
be
think
on.
they just ran out of topics.
They did. Absolutely. And now, so they have to regurgitate.
That's what I
Okay.
mean. They're out of
So,
control.
well, so we get, so Ghost Adventures is apparently still on. I don't know. So, Nick Groff, the middle guy after Zach, and then they have that other guy. He goes and he gets a show with this Katrina one from Paranormal State, the one that inferred I didn't know what I was talking about the cannibal murders with Zach and Annie Bowie. Yeah, so I'd like to meet with her. I'd like to talk to her and say, because you don't know, often they get a show and it's called Paranormal Lockdown. How is that different than Ghost Adventures? Lock us up and we're in here. It's just two of you instead of three and one guy filming. Because in the very beginning, they were pretty valid because it was just them. And it was easy to see because sometimes they'd make mistakes with filming stuff and all. But then as they got bigger, they began to like bring a couple of things out of the shadow, like another, like a command central person or another cameraman or something as they got bigger because they wanted to make it bigger. But initially, so how is Paranormal Lockdown any different than Ghost, like Jack Bagan saying we're locked in for the next 12 hours? So how is that different? It's
It's
not.
not.
Who wants to look at the same thing with other people doing it? It's the same thing, it's just different people doing the same thing. It's ridiculous. And, it just proves that it's just plateaued out. I mean, it's a cash cow for some people and it still is. But, if you're out there in some obscure team and you're thinking one day I'm going to get on TV and it's going to be our team, no, the odds are absolutely against you.
I know.
That's why.
And the last couple of producers that, contacted me wanting to do something like that, I'm like, it's been done to death.
Right. Exactly.
And that's my exact words. That has been done to death. No.
Hmm. That's right. I mean, they can't, let's just take the one that had contacted us recently, right? And who never contacted us again because she had gotten the information that she wanted, you know.
Mhm.
You had the conversation with her, and then I had a conversation with her, and I could tell what she was going for. She was going for, they were going to find a place that was, I guess, demonically haunted, right?
Mhm.
And because she asked me point blank, do you exercise locations or people? And I was like, no, I do not.
Mhm.
I would not. And as she said, in other words, if there were evil spirits there, you wouldn't be able to send them wherever. I said no, and I wouldn't want to try. I just told her that. And so if she
Mhm.
never calls us back, it's no loss to us at all. Because I don't want to be on TV doing stuff that not supposed to be doing or stuff that I don't know about. In the course of the conversation, it seemed like that's what she wanted, and so I mentioned somebody else's name who does put on that they do that. And I was like, I think she may have followed that lead. I don't care one way or the other. But,
Right.
The thing that happens with you and I, Bernadine, is that people will call us and they will talk to us and they will get information and then they'll go do something else. They want somebody young. They want
That's
somebody
why
with
I don't send my evidence to them.
exactly. That's exactly why. I mean, it's a business now, and it's a dog eat dog
Right.
business, and it's it's exploitative as well. I mean, we can enumerate, or you can just see when you go to conventions and stuff, the amount of merchandise and, what reselling themselves and repackaging. And, it only takes one show, one appearance on TV, right? For some of these people to come out of there calling themselves, I'm a demonologist or I'm a star or whatever. One time you sat down in front of a camera and told somebody what happened to you in a
Yeah.
show that has like 100 episodes, and you're a star now. And guess what? They'll go to some convention and somebody will pay to see them and buy a book or buy a signed whatever, so what the hell is wrong with the people that are going to do that, that are going to pay money for, this guy who spoke for 10 minutes about something, he was barely involved in. I don't know.
It's crazy.
It is. It is crazy.
I
And
think they
so,
get starstruck.
yeah, I mean, one hit wonder for real, I mean, look at the shows
Yeah.
though. Fact or Faked. I think we talked about this one too. Fact or Fake Paranormal was on Sci-Fi. And the thing is, they would take clips of whatever. It could be anything from paranormal occurrences to aliens or whatever. And they would pick the ones that that were outstanding. And then they wanted to try to duplicate them. And duplicating the situation or recreating something is not going out with Sci-Fi's money and buying all kind of crap that the average Joe, right, who sent you the evidence in the story can't get a hold of. Okay, you could, if you
Yeah.
have access to like a Hollywood budget, you can mimic and recreate anything. All right, almost anything. So they were trying to prove these people. They were trying to disprove it or prove it by bringing in, I mean, like earth movers and, all kind of crap and plague lights. And nobody who is, just a regular Joe Blow out here trying to, get on TV has the money to do that. Because if he did, he wouldn't be wanting to be on your show, right? So, I
Right.
mean, how can you say these people are frauds? So they ran what, 2 seasons maybe or something.
Yeah.
Next
I
thing you
remember the
know,
one with the alien, the abduction lady.
yeah.
They took a blow up alien balloon and they ran it across the top of the ceiling, trying to recreate what the lady seen while she was in her bed. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, and then if they can recreate it, they say it's not true, which is
Right.
wrong. Just because you can recreate it doesn't mean that she or he or whoever it is didn't see it
Yeah.
or didn't experience it the way that they're telling you, because a lot
So,
of it is subjective, you know?
yeah. So you're tarnishing, their,
Reputation when just because you can't prove it, that's what it comes down to.
yeah.
Oh, you can't prove it, so it didn't happen, right? That's a shitty thing to say. That's the basis of their show.
Especially if a person has been through trauma because of it.
Right, exactly. And they're going to come in and say, well, we couldn't recreate it, so we don't think this is true. On by the
Yeah.
wayside. Let's see. Okay, so we have Fact or Fake, and the only saving grace was that guy Ben, who was an FBI whatever, and he was cute. So I would watch it a couple of times. And now he shows up at conventions, all the time. Okay, and maybe the other ones, but I don't know. They had Haunted Highways that actually had Ozzy Osbourne's son in it. It tanked, right? They had Ghost Mine, and people
Jack.
were laughing about it. Yeah, Jack Osbourne. It tanked. It went nowhere. Because they were the same thing. They're out in the woods trying to recreate seeing, Bigfoot and all this other stuff, and they're being filmed. Now, okay, so Ghost Mine, they had, I don't know. Remember, my ghost story was actually kind of engaging because I like ghost stories. I'm not judging whether
Right.
it's true or not. I'm just listening to the people. That one you don't see anymore. The ghostly encounters that comes out of Canada. You got all of this crap. This repetition. Repetition is hell. It's like
Done to death.
Done to death. So what can anybody do now? That's different. And Pete was talking about that. It's like it's plateaued, and it's just it has no direction. It's going to continue to grind. Like, remember we were talking about, and we've got like 6 minutes. We're talking about Ralph Sarchi again. I wonder if his ears burn. And I don't mean to bring him up so much, but he's like, I was surprised when they offered a series to him that he agreed to a team type, a paranormal team or investigative team. He didn't need it because him and 2 other people are who he always works with. He has 2 other guys that, have been with him for years. It would have been really great if it was just those 3. But anyway, I think he walked away from it because why? Because it's a bunch of bullshit. That's why. They make up shit. Okay. And there's Demon Hunter and the Paranormal. And this, I mean, Weather Channel. Okay. The Weather Channel even has a paranormal program. It's called, I don't even know what, but it comes on Supernatural maybe or something. It comes on every now and then on the Weather Channel. I'm like, what's next? The Haunted Golf Course or, Kentucky Derby? I don't know. It's just, I don't know. And they don't want, it's like, oh, they want these young people. So I don't care. I mean, I'm not in this to do anything. I write. I'm a writer. I know what I know. You're an investigator and your other things. You have a life and you know what you know. So I don't need anybody to put me on TV or whatever, It's nice and it's kind of flattering, but when they're going to tell you how to do your thing, forget it, Anyway, so yeah, we've come up against the end, and Pete agreed with us. So, and he was a great guest. I like when he's on. So that was the 2nd time.
Oh, you do know we're going to have him on again.
When?
November 17th. It's going to be a call-in show. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, he wanted to do a Q&A. November 17th.
Got it.
Cool. So who's the first guest for August? Who's coming up?
For August, we have Andrew Basiago. And he's the one, his dad had a time machine.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk.
And then after him,
my new best friend.
Jonathan Forey is coming back.
Oh, no. Really? Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to get in October so he can advertise for the Rougarou Fest, but we're booked.
Well, we could do you could go back to him and we could do a first 30 for 30 minutes, but we can talk about that. Just go and say, because I was going to bring Sue Kiraz too, of the vampire thing. Just give them, a little bit to talk about, and Paula too before so we've got that first 30 minutes and then they can join us as a guest later. But anyway, so this has been the Supernatural Substation with Bernadine LeBlanc and myself, Alyne Pustanio. And don't forget, Zeke. Oh my God, Zeke. He's been watching the dog. So, so if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Dean, hurry up and give out your contact information.
www.lspr-society.com.
Excellent. And we are now on YouTube. We have the Supernatural Substation YouTube channel. If you want to find me, it's AlynePustanio.net, or look on Facebook. Alyne Orleans is usually my handle. So stay tuned, because after us is Miss Kathy Bilski. You're taking a quantum leap. And it's usually a great show. I'm sorry, my little note kind of escaped from me. Stay up and be creeped out at 2 a.m. for Terminus, which I hear is doing well. Tonight, it is Silence, a Fable by Edgar Allan Poe. It's music inspired by that. And remember, we are part of the iHeart Network, the iHeart Radio Network, which is great because we've seen an uptick in that. So you've been listening to Supernatural Substation. We'll be back again next Friday, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Only on UPRN, talkradio.com. Say goodnight, Dean.
Night, night, all.
Night. Did I do everything?
Yeah, you're good. Let me just. Well, I'll just mute. You know what? We'll just hit